Was completely and utterly miserable while watching one of my favorite team, my only team, play and win last night. A massive victory, though, for the University of Tennessee. The basketball's back on the court, college basketball back in our lives. Head coach Rick Barnes is going to join us in about 25 minutes from now, so stick around for that. Love to have college basketball back at the same time as college football's going on. The NFL is in mid-swing. We got Odell Beckham Jr. stuff flying all over the place. It's crazy out in these streets. But we're here to guide you through it for at least the next 3 hours. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045. What'd you learn from the first night of college basketball? Or did you even watch? Because this is a perpetual fight for me. And I know Lucas loves it, so at least I have one ally. Brett Batchelor's back there as well. I have no idea his feelings on the matter. Gave me a thumbs up. We'll take it. But as far as what took place last night, I mean, certainly for the University of Tennessee and how much different they look when Santiago Vescovi no longer has to be the primary ball handler, and just a record night from three in a way that you feel like this team is going to be able to sustain even as they get into league play and as they make a push to be the top team in the SEC, which they're completely capable of doing, particularly if you watched Kentucky and Duke square off last night as the second half of the Champions Classic. What did you learn from the first night of college basketball? 615-737-1045, or do you have zero investment at this time of year? We will differ on that subject, but it's okay. I welcome the conversation. We'll have football talk for you at some point throughout the course of today's show. Lucas, what'd you learn last night?
Well, as far as Tennessee, I learned that offensively it's going to be a very different-looking team from the 2020-2021 season.
Which is a blessing as far as I'm concerned.
The pacing, shooting from outside the three-point line, just everything about this offense is going to be, I think, a little more high-powered, more options, more depth. Defensively might still be a question mark because that was the big strength going into last season. So we'll see how that kind of develops. And we learned that Coach K is going to have a party thrown for him every time he coaches somewhere for the last time.
All right, so let me be respectful to the legend. All right,
greatest of all time.
Mike Krzyzewski is without question the greatest college basketball coach in the history of the sport. I refuse. I will not denigrate his resume. I will not denigrate the fact that he dyes his hair, clearly. I will not denigrate the fact that it is going to be obnoxious.
Well, in the modern history of the sport, right? I mean, John Wooden, I think, will probably forever hold that role.
As far as winning is concerned, it's a fair assumption. I'm just looking at it, and so I shouldn't say all time. You're correct. I'll say in my lifetime, there has not been a better basketball than Mike Krzyzewski, and especially with the run that they've had at Duke. And the way that they've been able to adapt through the different variations of college basketball and win in different eras in different ways. There's no question that he has been superior among his peers, and certainly while he's been at Duke. But I don't know how I feel about the farewell tour thing, right? Because you don't say bad things about Kobe Bryant, especially with the way that story ended. But Kobe Bryant's his last ride, his final season with the Lakers had similar vibes, right? Where it's the focal point of every game. And for the Lakers that season, it was completely meaningless. So Kobe was the only story on a bad Lakers team. But the more that I look at the Coach K thing, and maybe it's just because my basketball team stinks and I'm miserable because Indiana barely beat a Michigan directional school last night at home by 6 points, and that just it begins what is a 4-month headache for me and a suffering, so I can feel what it is to be a sports fan again and hate my favorite team because they stink every time they take the court and I have to deal with 64-year-old Mike Woodson. These are only problems that I have. It's okay. I'm not going to project. I'm just going to enjoy Tennessee basketball for what it is because thank God they're good. But with Coach K, how much of the farewell tour are you willing to tolerate? Because Duke's already one of the most hated programs in college basketball. Like, they have hateable players. It depends on how you feel about Krzyzewski, whether his greatness outweighs what you dislike about him, about his coaching style, about how he handles himself at the press conference, and about things like the farewell tour. But I just don't want it to dominate the sport that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is big. He is bigger than life. And this is the case for college coaches, whether it be in football or in basketball. You're the main representation of the program. It's not necessarily the players, particularly in basketball with the one and done and how things shift from year to year and how much less important the sport is in and of itself, unless you're a diehard fan, unless you went to an institution that takes pride in their basketball team. Or if you just like March Madness because it's fun to bet on, it's fun to, have games on during the work day and have things like bracket challenges, stuff of that nature. I just don't want Mike Krzyzewski to overwhelm what I want to be a fun college basketball season. Because I don't think anything was hurt more by COVID as far as the viewing experience is concerned than college basketball. I mean, that really sucked the life out of it for me a season ago because the environments are everything. They're already more intimate spaces. These college basketball arenas, Assembly Hall, where Indiana plays, is what, 20, 25,000? It may be less since they put in the luxury suites. I don't know what Thompson Bowling Arena is.
About 21.
About 21. So
20.
It's a more intimate experience. And of course, without the fans, you palpably feel the lack of energy, particularly in the Big Ten where fans just weren't allowed. You had some attendance throughout the course of last season, but really it was just friends and family even through the tournament. It sucked, right? So to have this back, I don't want that to be the overarching story. And I feel like it's already going to start the season that way because that's how college basketball, at least during the regular season, that's how people keep track of it. It's Trae Young. It's Coach K. It's all of these. It's, whether Kentucky it's Zion, right? It's individuals that carry the sport in almost the same way that the NBA is, but it takes away from the product that's actually taking place. Now, there's no question that it's a lesser product than what you're watching in the NBA, but I don't know. I gravitate towards it more than anything else in sports because of what the fans bring to that experience.
I think Kennedy Chandler can do that for Tennessee this season.
Spicy. I like that because they looked so fluid on offense last night. It was a joy to watch Tennessee play. So we're going to talk about season expectations for the Basketballs, and we're going to be joined by head coach Rick Barnes at 10:30. We'll get into that coming up next. What are your season expectations for Tennessee basketball after a big win over UT Martin last night? Scrappy UT Martin, by the way. They put up a fight in the first half, and then Tennessee, as they should, ran away with the game instead of struggling against a directional Michigan team. I have no patience for Indiana already. We're one game in. I hate them. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Coming up today on the 3HL.
Happy Hump Day. We've got lots of football to talk about, and we'll do it at Barrels and Brews at the Old Shoney's building on Murfreesboro Road in Franklin.
Yes, and Coach Mack
promising Duke team. And then, of course, there's Tennessee, who looked spectacular against UT Martin, albeit, but a different feel, a different looking team, a different dynamic to the offense, and some questions about the defensive side of the ball. But we'll see if we can't have some of those questions answered when Coach Rick Barnes joins us in about 10 minutes from now. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. What are your season expectations for Tennessee? You know, I mean, it should be to be the best team in the SEC at this point, based on where the trajectory is for this program, understanding how Rick Barnes seems to have figured out, or at least, again, it's one game sample size. All right. It's not the end all be all of what they're going to be, and it's against an obviously lesser opponent. That's okay. It's okay to look ahead and to have these kind of expectations for a team that you know is going to be a tournament team, for a team that you know should be exciting based on the offensive firepower that they've added. I mean, Kennedy Chandler's debut last night was chef's kiss. It's exactly what I'm looking to watch all season long while I suffer Indiana basketball. But what are your season expectations for the Vols at this point? I mean, to finish top 3 in the SEC is the standard. There is no question. To look ahead at the NCAA tournament expectations, you have to kind of wait on the defense at this point, but you can assume and you can look at this and say, if healthy, this is easily a tournament team, and then you can talk about seeding as we get later and later, and nobody cares about these things until it's actually time to talk about seeding. But I do think it's an interesting conversation based on how am I being unfair if I'm characterize it as petering out?
No, I don't think so, especially on the offensive end.
Right, because, and John Fulkerson, who was the only, again, SEC preseason player of the, he was on the SEC.
Preseason
All SEC team, and then didn't even play last night. So you're kind of wanting to understand a little bit more, given how that thing, in and of itself, when you're expecting John Fulkerson to be one of the most impactful players on the team, and again, the way that it kind of sputtered.
And he also didn't play in that NCAA tournament game or that final SEC tournament game.
Because he had his face blown up. He had his face blown up.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about throughout the course of the regular season.
Yes.
Again, because he looked like he was getting ready to find his stride, and then, you get an elbow to the face, and all hell breaks loose, and then all they're showing on the sideline during the first couple of rounds of that SEC tournament is John Fulkerson in the Batman
Poor
mask.
guy. Patrick Young, former Florida center, was on Paul Feinbaum. He's just joined SEC Network as a basketball analyst.
I know, he did. I thought he was good last night.
He was good, and he joined the Feinbaum show right at the end leading up to coverage of the Tennessee game, and they were talking about Fulkerson and the way things ended for him last year and it not being ideal, and Feinbaum kind of positively, well, now who did that happen against? He made Patrick Young call out his own team.
Say it, Pat.
Say their names.
Scott and Beth Page is up next on 104.5 The Zone. What's up, Scott?
Good morning, Buck. Always love the show. Hey, real quick. All right, first of all, the callers, we got to do better as callers. So when you put us on the air, this, hey, are you there, Buck? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That's got to stop. Guys, have the phone to your ear ready to answer the calls. When he's got you on the air, be ready to speak.
Hold him accountable, Scott.
Buck, it's getting on my nerves. It's really getting bad. But thank God for the 2 knowledgeable ladies that called the show yesterday. I mean, they saved the day. You're back in the race because of it. And second, real quick, Lucas, I'm sorry. I'm springing this on you. I didn't tell you this part of it. We need to be more grateful for our radio station. When I say ours, I'm talking about the Zone. It's the Mid-State station. We need to be a little bit more grateful for the talent and the producers that put this thing on every day, because all these folks want more national attention. We don't need national attention. We get everything that we need in content from our local people who are extremely talented, who I think are the best in the nation.
I did not pay him to say this. I need to preface this by saying there was no exchange of money to bring Scott on the air and to sing our praises, but you may continue.
Well, I haven't gotten to speak in a while, and you've let some people speak that you probably should have let stay on. So I think I'm good enough. I'm in your top three. I'm obviously in your top three. Lebowski's a little bit behind me. I know he is.
Oh, disrespect.
And we can all admit that. So, I just wanted to say we need to quit worrying about national media. We don't need national attention. It's not about whether we want national attention. It's do we want the national attention to have anything from Nashville? That's the mindset we need to have. And second of all, I don't care what Tennessee does this year as long as we beat the Big Blue. We got Memphis North. We got to play them twice. We got to go play the real Memphis, the real live Memphis. So if we can get those three right there, I'm a happy camper. I'm not worried about the rest of it, except I do want to win the SEC tournament. I think that would be a great thing for us as fans. Elite Eight after that, and that's a bonus to me. So thank you guys. I appreciate you, and gosh, I love both of y'all so much. All right.
I love you too, Scott.
Love you too, Scott.
Go ahead and rack him. Oh, my God. V-Love tweets says, tell Scott and Beth Page that I, too, love him. Yeah. That was delightful. That was uplifting.
Uplifting.
So let me pull some basketball out of that before Rick Barnes joins us in
get
4
emotional.
minutes. I have to. It's getting a little dusty in here. It's unfortunate that I'm on camera. I'm being exposed. But, to win an SEC tournament would feel different, right? Would feel substantially different. And I think should kind of, and, of course, coaches are going to downplay these kind of preseason expectations off of one game. It's one game. But I do think Rick Barnes is always fairly transparent in his media availabilities with the kind of standard that they hold themselves to and understanding, how this program is perceived and where he's kind of been able to guide them back to as far as consistency is concerned after a rocky couple of years with all that Tennessee basketball was going through. So, I think to look at an SEC tournament, again, months away at this point, and understanding just what this thing looks like right now, you have questions about defense, but you understand that, you trust Rick Barnes. You trust Rick Barnes to be able to guide this thing through. And I know that, there will be criticisms. People all consistently cite Rick Barnes's tournament record as something that kind of distinguishes Rick Barnes in the postseason and his teams in the postseason from what he's able to do during the regular season. But I think at this point, you trust him to be able to, put these players in positions to succeed. And the plan, I think, looked transparent last night. And yeah, UT Martin came out firing. I was not expecting that in the first half. They practice. We know that Tennessee practices at a high tempo. There's not really teams that are walking the ball down and getting into a set with the way that Tennessee likes to go at things. But I think at this point it was interesting to see UT Martin kind of attack the Vols defense that way last night. That I was not anticipating, just because I'm working off last year's sample size and what last year's team did at a high level with Yves Pons and players of that nature who excel on the defensive side of the court. I was not expecting it to look quite like that.
It's like it's been flipped from going into last season. You went into last season thinking this could be the best defense in the country, and with progress to be made on the offensive end, if they can find a way to score consistently, it feels like the flip of that this season. Thinking this offense could be the most explosive in the SEC, has the potential to be with its depth and its shooters, and this defense is going to be the work in progress.
615-737-1045 is the number. Coach Rick Barnes is going to join us here in just a second, talking season expectations for Tennessee. But it's not just Tennessee that I'm looking at. In the SEC at this point, Alabama. I had that game on in the background last night, and I thought, now Lucas, who did they bring in from Cane Ridge?
Well, Brandon Miller committed about a week ago now. He's a senior. He still has a whole year of high school basketball left to play.
Right, but what Nate Oates is putting together at Alabama, I think, is an appealing product. Now, again, I had that game on in the background as I was wrapping some things up last night and kind of going back through what my observations were.
They're not going anywhere
from the Vols game, but Alabama is spicy. I really enjoy that the SEC is this and has consistently been this kind of a power conference in college basketball. But we'll catch up with Vols head coach Rick Barnes here in just a second. We'll talk to him about John Fulkerson as they await that at that particular situation and see what his thoughts were on the Vols opening game against UT Martin, and kind of how things stack up in the SEC, where he's seen the conference kind of elevate itself to at this point. We're looking forward to having Coach Barnes, and we appreciate him taking some time after his team's opening night. Coach Rick Barnes joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. Coach, congratulations on the victory. We appreciate you stopping by this morning.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys having me.
So, I mean, obviously the thing that excited the fan base most last night, it seemed, was Kennedy Chandler. He's the buzz. He obviously showed out in his debut. I mean, you guys know what he's capable of, obviously, but how well did he kind of vibe with the rest of what you guys were trying to accomplish offensively?
Well, Kennedy's the kind of person and player that's going to vibe with wherever he is, because he's a very humble person, and he's a team first guy. It's I'm impressed with him because I'm pretty tough on point guards in general, but when I look at a talent like Kennedy, you know, I just see so much more there, and I love the way he's responded to me trying to help pull that out with our coaching staff, because we think there's just so many more levels that he can get himself to, but that's the great part about young players, having them that want to be coached, that players that embrace that, the work ethic, you know, not only from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental side, learning things about the game that he had probably not thought a lot about in the past. Also trying to get him to understand that, you know, everybody you go against, you know, they're out there to go after you. And especially when you're the point, especially when you've got a little bit of a bullseye on your back from having such a, you know, nice raving about you coming out of high school. But he's been great in terms of, one, he's a team guy all the way, which you love at that position. But and he is not, again, when I coach him hard, get after him, I mean, he just takes it and says, hey, you know, stay after me. I want to do this. I want to do it, because there are just, like I said, so many different levels that we know he can get to.
That element of his mindset, Coach, how critical is that to specifically the position that he plays? Because you talk about demanding a lot of that position in particular. How critical is it to the way that you expect a player at that position to perform?
It's critical, very critical. It's no different, you know, than a quarterback in football, and you know, where he's got to see the game through a lot of different eyes. He's got to not only understand his position, he's got to understand what's going on around him with the other guys, and he again, learning a system, that because for certain he'll be as he continues to go up the chain here, he's going to, you know, more and more is going to be thrown at him, more and more is going to be expected of him. And I do think that once he continues to get himself in elite mental shape, that's when we're going to see the great leaps and bounds that we know that he can make. But it's what's critical is that he wants it. That's what's really critical. And I told him, I said, hey, it's hard. It's so much harder than you think, because he's been able to get by for a long time on just sheer talent. And the fact that if you watch the way he's shooting the ball right now, it tells you a lot about him, because when we first met him years ago, starting the recruiting process, that's the one area that everybody talked about he needed to get better with. And has worked so hard along with his dad through the years to, you know, they asked Artie, what does he have to do to get better? And every time you mention something, next time you would see him, you know, he had improved in those areas.
Vols head coach Rick Barnes here with us on 104.5 The Zone, recapping the team's win over UT Martin 90-62 last night. Coach, not just the way that Chandler was shooting, but you guys as a team, I mean, a program record 17 made threes. Obviously, that number is an anomaly on a game-to-game basis, but how much of that is what you guys want to incorporate on a night-by-night basis with your offense?
Well, you know, we know that we think we have shooters, and you know, we think we've got, you know, a number of them. And it'd be sweet if we knew they're all going to shoot it well every night, but we know that's not going to happen. And when I looked at the tape last night, I would say I think we shot 43s. I would tell you that I thought 5 of them were ill-advised. Just that I understand being the first game, and the fact that we have encouraged our guys when they're open, we want them to take shots. And so I think that they've got to have that freedom of mind to do that. But with that said, we took a few of them that were contested where I thought guys were anxious to get a shot up, and But and then when we bring John Fulkerson, when he gets back, will it change us some? Obviously it will, because he brings a dynamic to us that he'll touch the ball more inside. And but last night, I felt like UT Martin, who I think they're an extremely well-coached team, and they know what they want to do. I thought they had a really good game plan in terms of spreading us out, just driving one-on-one, which at the beginning of the year, this time of year, you see a lot of that, because in practice we're going against each other. We know each other's tendencies. We're trying to work on offense. So, you can get a false sense of confidence about how good you might be on defense until you go against other people who now you don't know, and they're just simply putting their head down trying to drive the ball. And from a defensive standpoint, they were giving us those looks, and I felt like in the past, trying to pound the ball inside, it creates, sometimes it allows your inside guys not to have the space they need because they're so far back in there. And we didn't want our inside guys, especially without Folky being there. He does play well in traffic, to get discouraged, because we need those guys to continue to grow. So we've encouraged our guys, if they're going to give us a look, we're not going to run some play that we've got to make 4 or 5 passes to get a look that we can get within the first 7 seconds of the shot clock.
It was certainly an enjoyable style to watch last night. Coach, what is the status of John Fulkerson at this point, and what's kind of the timeline for him?
We think he'll start working back with us tomorrow, and working his way back in, and will he be available for Sunday's game? We don't know. We don't, but we'll see based on what he can do in practice, and then from there we'll just see, and he'll just keep trying to get his time back. He's done a lot with us. I mean, he, in terms of everything he can do without really basically being in competition, touching the ball, he's done as much as he can. He obviously on his side is trying to run and stay in shape, but it's not the same as what we do every day in the daily grind that we do if you're not out there going at it when we're playing 5-on-5. But I expect with his maturity, his age, he'll be able to bounce back quick.
He's such an anomaly in this sport nowadays, Coach Fulkerson, is just from how much the program, not necessarily how much the program means to a specific player, although obviously this one has a great love for Tennessee basketball, but just for the fact that he's been around the program in a way where college basketball players really don't stick around or have that kind of stickiness to them with the community and with the fan base as he does. What does it mean to have that kind of presence, not just around your program, but in your locker room, and what it kind of brings to the guys in general? Well,
you said it first, that he does love Tennessee. He loves the great state of Tennessee, and he loves the Tennessee Volunteers, and he's he grew up wanting to be a part of that, and he's had a very unusual career with being hurt early in his career and missing basically his first year, and then the COVID and everything that he went through a year ago with the COVID, then the shot he took to the head, but he's a special person, and you can't not be around John Fulkerson and fall in love with him right away, because of he cares about other people. He's very humble, and he on the basketball court. I've said it before. I don't know if he looks the part, but he plays the part. He's got a really good feel, and he sees it. I think players, there's no doubt his teammates have great confidence in him. John's not the kind of guy that's going to say a lot from a leadership standpoint, but it's the way he goes about his day-to-day business with the guys individually. They know, again, it's almost like a big brother kind of deal where they know they've seen him, and they know he's been through a lot. They know he's seen a lot, and the fact is they watch him be so selfless in everything that he does.
Coach Rick Barnes of the University of Tennessee here with us on 104.5 The Zone.
Coach, with the depth that you guys have kind of manufactured and creating so many different ball-handling guards that you're comfortable with and bringing the ball up the floor, what does that create for Santiago Vescovi in his role? How critical was this offseason for him in settling into what his role is going to be with Kennedy Chandler around him now, and, of course, along with Josiah Jordan-James and Ziegler and all the other guys that I know you're comfortable with handling the ball back there? What does that mean for Santiago in 2021 and 2022?
Well, Santi has got himself in the best shape he's ever been. I mean, Santi's in elite shape, and if you watch him practice every day, it's really fun to be in practice with him because he doesn't have any days off in terms of him trying to get better, and he's has a great influence on our guys in terms of that. But they will complement each other in a great way. Like Kennedy's not afraid to defer to him if he gets the ball, vice versa. I still think that both Kennedy and I would say all three of them, Kennedy, Ncaa, and Santi, still at times try to do too much because we do put a lot on our point guard to try to get things done early in the possession in terms of where we want to attack space on the floor. And because of their competitive drive, all three of them, we're trying to teach them, hey, yeah, we want it. We want to go after it. I would say it like this. It's like a quarterback has maybe 2 or 3 different reads every time he steps back to pass. And you don't want the guys trying to make the home run throw every time. Sometimes you got to drop it to the checkoff guy. That's what we're working with these guys at. Yeah, we want them looking, but they're going to have to be able to back it out, reload, and move on to something else as opposed to just constantly trying to force it there. But that comes with the season being new, and you learn to play through it. But, again, we put so much on our point guard, especially in transition and the runner team that but all three of those guys in practice, they challenge each other. They have a great deal of respect for each other. They know they all need each other. And I think what's helped Kennedy, he would tell you, a guy like Zacchaeus Ziegler, who he's never played against a guy smaller, who every day climbs into him close. I don't think anybody's ever guarded him any closer than what Zacchaeus does every day. Santi guards him in a different way, and that happens with all three of them. They all three do different things with each other defensively, which I think in the long run is going to help them all.
So taking that conversation to the other part of the floor, Coach, Olivier Ncaa, he goes from a guy who didn't attempt a three-pointer all of last season to attempting 3 last night. Hit one very early on, a double-double, 14 rebounds, especially with John Fulkerson out in this early portion of the season. How critical is his growth now as he steps into his junior season?
It's critical. That's what I was saying earlier about last night with them being back in there so far, not trying to force it so much on top of those guys because I don't want to lose them early this year. I just wanted them to kind of play within the flow of the game last night. But Olivier is, again, an extreme. If you ask anybody on the team, he would be one of the top 5 hard workers on our team. And what he did last night, and I've been after him about to do more, I want him to be flying around out there, making things because he's athletic. He's at his best when he's just really like a junkyard dog just going at it. In the past, you asked about him shooting threes. My problem with him in the past was I felt like that's what he wanted to do most. And there is no doubt he's more than capable of doing that, but we need him to do the things that we need him to do to help us as a team. And it's a mindset, and he's one of the most honest players I've ever been around that knows exactly what we're talking about, and it's almost like talking about changing DNA. But when we recruited Olivier, what we loved about him was he played with a very high level of aggressiveness, and he had a big motor. We want him to turn that motor on and go at it. We made a mistake last night on the bench. We had him down for 2 fouls. He actually had 3, and then he picked up a 4th one, and we didn't. That was our fault on the bench last night, and he had probably played a little bit more because he sat for a while there last night in the second half because he had picked up his 4th foul early in the half. Again, that was our mistake, but he's important. He's going to be critical to us. I think everyone sees that Uros has improved inside. We need Brandon Huntley to play. We need him to really understand that, hey, this is a whole different basketball game that he's ever played in his life, and learning how to defend. Like last night, I thought Olivier did some. We always have some kind of defensive scheme going on in terms of how we play ball screens. But last night at the end of the game, every chance that Olivier got to switch, and we weren't necessarily in that defense, but he was wanting to switch out because he knows for us to be an elite defensive team, many times this year he's going to have to switch out on the guards. And the fact that he was taking that initiative last night on his own it was towards the end of the game, I thought was really great, because that's something that we keep talking to him about, that and we know Josiah has the ability to do it if we play smaller, but we need those guys to be able to guard guards, especially in late clock situations.
Coach Rick Barnes of the University of Tennessee has been our guest here on 104.5 The Zone. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time. Congratulations on the win last night. Continued health and success, and we'll certainly be watching when you guys host East Tennessee State at 11 o'clock Central on Sunday. That, of course, people can hear right here on 104.5 The Zone. Take care, Coach.
Take care, and thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Rick Barnes there with us on the show. I could talk to that man about college basketball for hours. He's really, really good.
And anything else.
And anything else. He got some depth to him. Coach Barnes is somebody that I think has so many different layers to him that, once you get past just what his identity is as a basketball coach, and you really understand how he interacts with his players and what his kind of background is and how that allows him to relate to these guys that he brings in from all over the place. It gives you a different appreciation for the man who's running your basketball team. When we come back, we'll react to more of what happened in the first night of college basketball. We'll also update you on the Odell Beckham Jr. situation, because I understand you got an itch.
And we'll have your subs boxed
A lot happening in the NFL right now, and it's revolving around one person. Welcome back. Buck Reising here with you till 1 o'clock. Dumbest thing in sports this week coming up next, so if you want to get in early, you can do so. 615-737-1045. So we'll give you a quick update on Odell Beckham Jr., and then we'll go to something that Ryan Tannehill has done with ESPN that I found to be quite enjoyable during the commercial break. Our buddy Diana Rossini, who's back in action for ESPN off maternity leave. We're very excited that Diana is back to work, and we're looking forward to having her on the show soon. Speaking of ESPN, by the way, Ncaa is going to be on with us tomorrow, and I believe that's at 10:20 as well. But what Diana is saying about Odell Beckham Jr., who, of course, cleared waivers yesterday, and now everybody wants a piece, including Titans fans. Thirsty lot of you. On the day in which he could make his final decision, Diana reports, free agent wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. is honing in on the Chiefs, Packers, and Saints, per league sources. Spicy. Odell Beckham Jr. taking issue with a quarterback in Cleveland and then deciding that the Packers, perhaps without Aaron Rodgers in seasons to come, the New Orleans Saints with Trevor Siemian at quarterback, and what looks to be a low-key broken offense with the Kansas City Chiefs. That seems like the better quarterback situation for him. I mean, I'm not saying that Patrick Mahomes is washed or anything like that, but did anybody watch that Chiefs-Packers game on Sunday? Dear God, the only thing that was worse than Jordan Love's family's seats at the very, very top of the stadium in literally the last row, the far-out camera zoom-in shot that the television broadcast had was the highest form of sports comedy. The only thing that looked worse than those seats was the Chiefs on offense against, I mean, honestly, a game that they should have probably been blown out by the Packers had Aaron Rodgers not or had Aaron Rodgers played, going through his COVID-19 situation, which I'm sure is going to come up during our next segment. But at this point, the Titans are not in the conversation, and for those of you who are lusting after him, it's, the market for Odell has not been something that intrigues people at all. Consider this before we talk about, how realistic it is for the Titans, because that's going to come up during the dumbest thing in sports, I'm quite certain. What Odell is at this point and what Odell is viewed as the league as is a player that wasn't good enough to trade for. And I think a lot of people would hear that on its face and think about Odell Beckham's body of work and say, well, that's completely ridiculous. How could a team not want to acquire the services of Odell Beckham Jr.? Clearly the issue is with the quarterback. I don't know. So then he gets put on waivers yesterday, and the cost of Odell Beckham Jr., if a team was to claim his contract, would have just been just about $7.5 million that whomever claimed him would be on the hook for. And then you saw him clear waivers. So he's not worth $7.5 million in a wide receiver market where Corey Davis is making, what, 12.75? Uh-oh. Then you see what's happening now where he's honing in on 3 specific teams. But are those teams actually interested in the services of Odell Beckham Jr.? That's a subject that we're going to talk about coming up next. And we're also going to do the dumbest thing in sports this week. So get in if you want a piece. 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. College basketball tipped off Tuesday night, and number 18 Tennessee opened the season with a 90-62 win over UT Martin, hitting 17 threes. That sets a single-game program record. Freshman Kennedy Chandler 4 for 4 from deep in his debut with 20 points. Santiago Vescovi adding 20 as well. 10th-ranked Kentucky fell to 9th-ranked Duke at the State Farm Classic in Madison Square Garden. Final score is 79-71. And 12th-ranked Memphis handled Tennessee Tech at home 89-65. Nashville teams in action on Tuesday. Belmont fell at Ohio 92-80. Lipscomb outscored Birmingham Southern 105-98, and it was Tennessee State losing at Alabama A&M 82-73. Vandy opens up tonight in Memorial Gym, a 7 p.m. tip against Alabama State. News out of Murfreesboro, MTSU will remain in Conference USA, reportedly nixing a move to the MAC. The Blue Raiders defeated Brescia 98-59 on Tuesday. And the Odell Beckham sweepstakes continues, according to Tom Silverstein. The Packers are offering Odell Beckham Jr. the veteran minimum. Diana Rossini reported just earlier today that he is between Packers, Saints, and Chiefs. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once, and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 off and rolling with a little bit of breaking news. Welcome in. Buck Reising here with you till 1 o'clock. Dumbest thing in sports this week. We're going to postpone it slightly given the thirst for Odell Beckham news that is out there in the world. The latest coming from, I want to make sure that I get the reporter's name correct. It is Tom Silverstein of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reporting Odell Beckham Jr. news. So that means it's Green Bay Packers related. According to an NFL source, Tom says the Packers are offering Odell Beckham Jr. the vet minimum. Of course, that could go up, but they can't pay him a ton when they still haven't extended Devontae Adams. They're offering Odell Beckham Jr. Now, here's where you find out just how bad he wants it, right? Because I don't think it's a fair position to put a player in to say, okay, well, if you want to go out and ring chase, take the vet minimum. He's a 30-year-old wide receiver with a shoulder issue. I don't know that I would be settling for vet minimum just to ring chase if he's got eyes on a future contract. 615-737-1045. Should the Titans be in on Odell Beckham Jr.? Let us know. 615-737-1045. This is something that is problematic, shall we call it? Because for Odell, he is, at this point, a famous person that also plays football. The thing that made Odell Beckham Jr. this kind of famous is, one, he did it in New York City. 2, spectacular highlight reel plays that you haven't seen a ton of as of late. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation, whether the Titans should be pursuing Odell Beckham Jr. And then there's this, which is arguably the bigger story that I don't feel like is being talked about near enough. This is a report from Cleveland.com, one of the most reputable NFL reporters there is, Mary Kay Cabot. Odell Beckham Jr. not planning to have surgery during the season on either of his injured shoulders. Oh, so there's an actual medical reason related to the fact that teams don't seem to want a part of this, not just because he's a quote-unquote diva wide receiver. It's such lame analysis. Bad culture guy. I don't want him in the locker room. No, he's got bum shoulders for a player that relies on highlight reel catches, or that's a big part of his game. Don't be ridiculous. I'm gonna go ahead and scoop myself on my dumbest thing in sports this week, it seems. But he is playing through significant injuries to both of his shoulders at this point, and apparently for one of the contenders in the league right now, it's not enough to say, yeah, we'll give you a contract. No, we'll give you vet minimum, bud. welcome in. We're not worried about you. We got Devontae Adams money we got to worry about next season. You want to come ring chase? Okay, we'll try it. I don't know what you are left as, or what you have left as a football player, as a top-end wide receiver, but it certainly isn't worth the $7.5 million we could have had you for on waivers yesterday. Come on now. This is a situation where, with Josh Reynolds released yesterday, and we'll get into the reasons about that more coming up next, and Mike Vrabel, whose press conference will carry at 12:10, I believe is what time the Titans head coach is expected to take the podium. I'm almost certain that somebody, I hope it's John Glennon, because it's always John Glennon. I hope Johnny asks Mike Vrabel about Odell Beckham Jr., because, of course, that's going to get just the cream of the crop Vrabel deadpan responses. I can hear it now in my head. But for the Titans, losing Josh Reynolds isn't the end of the world. This is a wide receiver who lost his starting or potentially starting slot to not just Chester Rogers, Marcus Johnson, and, honestly, NWI. But they traded for Julio Jones right after this dude had signed here on a one-year prove-it deal, and he was under the impression that he was going to be the replacement for Corey Davis. Surprise! John Robinson's out here wheeling and dealing on a boat in the middle of Percy Priest, trying to acquire one of the greatest wide receivers of a generation. You think you're number two? Sorry, bud. It's not how it's going to go down here. So he asks out yesterday, and he gets his wish granted because he's a healthy scratch against the team that many of you are demanding that he have a revenge game against to prove himself. What's there to prove? He's a non-factor at this point, and now he's no longer with the Tennessee Titans. So to add Odell Beckham Jr. into the mix, the question is not, can he help you ring chase? Well, the question is, can he help you ring chase? But the bigger question is the juice worth the squeeze at this point? Because he got a lot of juice. It just doesn't happen to be on the football field anymore. 615-737-1045. Should the Titans be in on Odell? God help me. Paxton's up first on 1045 The Zone. What's up, Paxton?
Hey, Buck. How you doing, brother? So the Titans are in a position, we are in Super Bowl contention, and I always believe that any time that a team is in Super Bowl contention to where they realistically can be there playing in February, then you should always go after talent. I do believe that OBJ has some juice left to squeeze, as you put it. I do believe that he really, truly wants to prove himself, that he's still among the elite in the NFL. And I think that he can. I think that his route running is still crisp. He's catching the ball very well. I think that he really wants to show that it wasn't him in Cleveland that was the problem. It was Mr. Baker. So I think the Titans should at least inquire. I'm not saying they should go after him and spend a bank or anything, but at least inquire to see kind of what his feel is, what he would and what he wouldn't take. Why not? At this moment, like you just said, we just let Josh Reynolds go, who wasn't a factor. However, having OBJ added into that wide receiver group that's been a little less than healthy. And we know what it looks like when you don't have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones on the field. We saw what that looks like. It's a loss to the worst team in the NFL right now, the New York Jets. So give the guy a chance. Let's see what he can do. If the money's right, sign him. It's simple as that. If not, then we move forward and keep doing what we're doing. I'll hang up and listen, bro. Thanks for taking the call, buddy.
Thanks for the call, Paxton. That was a good one. 615. Go ahead and rack him when you get a second. I know you're busy. Thank you. Yeah, what's he willing to take, right? If he's willing to take vet minimum, hell, I'll throw him a bone, right? Imagine that, the Tennessee Titans being in a position to throw a bone to somebody of the status, if not still the stature, of Odell Beckham Jr. Listen, the Baker thing is real. Like, Baker Mayfield, even before Baker Mayfield had a torn shoulder labrum, and apparently Odell has 2 shoulder injuries. Even before that, they didn't seem to be on the same page, or for Baker, he seemed to be forcing it to Odell in moments where he really did not need to force it to him, just for the sake of getting the ball to your best playmaker. And there's no question that Odell has been one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. But the point stands that he's just not what he was at 30 years old. Or what? He turned 29 last week, right? Because what they offered him was basically an economy ticket to Detroit. Happy birthday, Odell. I mean, if the money is right, you did move around that kind of money when you restructured Julio Jones's deal in the start of the season, if you'll recall. You do have some money to play with. Now, how much of that you want to exhaust and how much of that is there specifically for emergency resources only. And, I mean, you didn't eat a ton of money on the Josh Reynolds deal, but that's a situation where you are eating some, and that may be the difference between whether you're willing to spend those resources on Odell Beckham Jr. or if you just don't think it's worth your hassle right now. Because here's what I'll tell you about Mike Vrabel and John Robinson and the Tennessee Titans. It's about production first and foremost, but it is also about how much you distract from what the team's accomplishments are. They will turn down players if they believe that the distraction is greater than the production they bring. Now, they have some of those players on the roster. That's probably the biggest criticism of the left tackle. And he may end up not being worth that at the end of the year when they're reevaluating his status and the amount of time that he spent not on the field this season, although he's looked pretty damn good when he's out there. Beckham is the same kind of conversation. He is going to bring you all the attention in the world, but is he going to replicate that attention because what he's helping you produce? And I don't know that the answer is even close to level at this point. We'll continue to talk about it. Let's go to Benny in Clarksville up next on 104.5 The Zone. What's up, Benny?
Hey, how you doing, first of all?
I'm well, thank you.
I don't believe that we should get Odell Beckham Jr. just because he's extremely talented, but he's also extremely injury prone, and he just doesn't really he never gets chemistry with the locker room, and he's just kind of a whine baby, and we don't need that in our locker room at this point with what they're building at this point. I just don't think that's not even a good fit, regardless of the talent.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation. We'll get into it more on the other side because I think there's some levels that we want to peel back here. And, if it means that we have to sacrifice the dumbest thing in sports, well, my dumbest thing in sports was on Odell anyway. So I'll find a way to work it in. That's up next. Stick around. 615-737-1045 is the number. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Odell news is moving very fast. Welcome back. I figured we might get stuck here today. I mean, but again, is it about what he can do for your football team, or is it a famous person that plays football? Can we put that on a poll, in fact? Lucas, if you could. Is it about Odell Beckham's skill as a wide receiver, or is it about a famous person that is also, just happens to be an NFL athlete? However you would like to phrase that. At Buck Reising is where you can vote on the polls. Ncaa on Twitter says, Odell is a great talent, but too selfish and will ruin the chemistry of the Titans right now. I think they're better off without him. All right, so this was going to be my dumbest thing. Do we want to do like a mini dumbest thing in sports? Because this is my spiel today.
So it's like a hybrid?
Like, I mean, we can do the whole intro. We can do the whole thing. I just don't know necessarily that I want to completely divert away from Odell stuff to do a full dumbest thing in sports. But this is very much centered around Odell Beckham Jr., my dumbest thing in sports. So I think I want the music anyway.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
"What the is this?"
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
Something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Reising Show.
All right. We're going to do this differently today. Today, it's, I'm going to make it self-involved. Shocking to nobody. You want to know what my dumbest thing in sports this week is? And Ncaa, who tweets the show, is a friend of mine, so I love you, Nick, but this is stupid. Odell is a great talent, but too selfish and will ruin the chemistry of the Titans right now. I think they're better off without him. Who cares? It's not about who he is. They don't care about who he is personally. They didn't care about what Antonio Brown was a couple of years ago personally. They cared and did their due diligence on what Jeff Simmons might have been in the draft process personally. Isaiah Wilson apparently had red flags literally surrounding him in a way that tweet trend that was going around a couple of weeks ago where you just quote tweet something that's problematic with a bunch of red flag emojis.
That was short-lived.
It was a terrible trend. I'm glad that we did away with it, although I did get a good one off. I was proud of myself. I was a part of the movement, and then we quickly killed it. But Isaiah Wilson was like the human embodiment of that tweet trend with the red flags. Hell out of here with personality issues, and they don't, it'll poison the locker room and locker room cancer. No, here's what matters. Can he play football at a high enough level to where he can help improve the football team? Can he help you on the field? Mike Vrabel has the spiel about we'll treat you how you treat the team. That's fine, but also Jadeveon Clowney was on your roster for a hot second. And I know for a fact that Jadeveon Clowney did not respect the team the way they want these guys to respect the team, okay? Like, that's a thing. So is it the production? Can the production outweigh the issues? And if the answer is yes, hell yeah, they'll take a look at him. Now, with the shoulder injuries and the reports about the fact that he's not opting to have surgery and all of these different things surrounding Odell as he, finger gun points at me on SportsCenter right now, is all of the things that come with Odell Beckham Jr., does the production outweigh all of them? And if the answer is no, then you're good. If the answer is yes, then yeah, you'll send a flyer out there. You'll take a look. You'll do due diligence. You have a whole pro scouting staff specifically devoted to that. It's not like NFL teams just say outright, yeah, we're going to punt. No. If it's a good enough player, or if the player fits their purposes in the correct way, then they will consider adding him to the roster, depending on the cost and depending on what their financial situation is right now. And if the financial situation isn't tolerable, then like the New Orleans Saints, they'll make it work. Tom Brady signed some kind of 4-year mutant avoidable years extension this year that turned into 1 year after a certain deadline. Jayon Brown did the same thing. It was a 3-year deal that turned into a 1-year deal all of a sudden because voidable years are a part of the process now. You can find a way to add damn near any player you want to your football team, even as the salary cap seems like more. And listen, future implications are a different conversation entirely. But for a 1-year situation, you can plug anybody you want into your roster. So the question is, does all of those things, can you get the production at least to be level on it, at least to come out, 50-50 on the other side, to where you're getting enough out of him to make all of the things that may come with him good enough? And the answer right now, based on the sample size and based on 2 shoulder injuries, I would say definitively no. But if the Packers are out there being like, yeah, okay, it's clear you're desperate, we'll throw you some vet minimum money, Odell. It's not quite the things that you're accustomed to, where he's wearing an $80,000 watch in the Browns season opener against the Tennessee Titans when they were like the first projections of super team. Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. The Titans aren't above signing people with character concerns, quote unquote. What they're not going to do is sign a player who's going to be a bigger pain in the ass than a producer on the football field. And when they do, they very quickly punt on those guys. Shout out Isaiah Wilson, Vic Beasley, Jadeveon Clowney, and so on the list goes. There's been plenty of them. Your franchise is not any better morally than any of the other 31 teams. Don't be stupid. Or, to not make it a personal attack, don't display the behavior of somebody who is stupid, shall I say. 615-737-1045. Noel in Bellevue is up next on 1045 The Zone. Hello, Noel.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing? Hey, you kind of hit it on it a little bit ago. He's one tremendously talented player, and he's proven that many times. But he is such a distraction. I mean, he's not quite up there with the guy that played basketball. He used to bleach his hair out horribly.
Dennis Rodman?
Are you talking about Dennis Rodman?
Yeah, he's not quite as bad as Rodman, but he is a distraction to the point that I think that he's all about him. He's not about the team, and his concern is not the team. It's all about him, and I think they'd be better off to just leave him go, and play with players that have heart and character.
Well, Noel, I don't disagree with your sentiment on not pursuing him, but not for the reasons that you've just laid out, right? Like, I think you put too much emphasis on how much guys like playing for winning teams. It looks a hell of a lot like Von Miller the other day, right? When he's talking about, I was just traded from a 4-4 team to one that's 7-1. My life's great today.
Now 7-2.
7-2. Okay. Look at you, you little homer.
That was a homer jab.
That was such a suck it, Vaughn. He didn't even play. What are you taking shots at Von Miller for? You got him, Lucas. You kicked him in his bad ankle that kept him off the field on Sunday. That's pretty funny. But again, not for the reasons that you're talking about. Again, don't romanticize so much of what it is to play for a professional sports team, right? They don't love the team the way that you love the team as a fan. They don't look at this the same way. Now, it's a blanket statement a little bit what I'm doing, but it's far more common in the NFL that you would find. Josh Reynolds, who was on your team. Josh Reynolds said, hey, I'm going to be a healthy scratch again in what is my biggest opportunity on a national platform to prove to whichever NFL team is going to go through my film next season when I'm trying to get another contract on a 1-year prove-it deal with you, when you told me that I was going to be the number 2 option here in Tennessee. Josh Reynolds said, nah, hell with that. I want out. And they gave it to him. There's plenty of players like that. So heart and character and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. There's plenty of bad people who are good football players. And you know what? If they help you win football games, you want them, and your franchise wants them too. I mean, to an extreme. Look at the Dolphins and Deshaun Watson. God. Like, let's not assign some kind of fake morality to NFL franchises. Can we not, please? I just think it's useless as an analysis. It doesn't help anybody. It's not realistic. 615-737-1045 is the number. Let's go to Jack in Nashville on OBJ. What's up, Jack? All right, let's not go to Jack in Nashville on OBJ. Let's go to Charlie in Franklin on OBJ. What's up, Charlie? All right, let's not go to Charlie. When Charlie
Come on.
Charlie burped and then hung up. Dude, that was a weird sound, wasn't it? Scott and Beth Page is livid somewhere right now. Scott does not love those people. By the way, breaking news from the Titans. They have signed to the practice squad Kevin Hogan and Chris Rowland, and Christian Fulton has been designated to return from injured reserve. Spicy. Not activated. Not activated. Remember that. And I'm going to tweet that out right now. But the Titans designating Christian Fulton to return to the roster does not mean that he's activated and available just yet, but it means that he's very, very close. And the move to get rid of Breon Borders yesterday indicates that they will need a roster spot for a defensive back coming up soon. So that's big against a team that has no wide receivers. So you're excited about that if you're a Titans fan. 615-737-1045 is the number. Let's see if Bill in Lebanon can be any better than the last two people. What's up, Bill?
Hey, what's up, Buck?
What you got for me?
So I had the opportunity to go to Cleveland, watch the Cleveland Browns and Steelers game. And I think he had one target that game, no catches. Come to the sideline, throw his helmet, kick rocks, like a little baby. But he's not going to be on the Titans. I mean, he hasn't been listed in anything, that they're going to do. But
I would not expect him here, Bill. I'll tell you that outright. Now, things could change very quickly, but I don't expect him to come here.
No, he's not coming to Tennessee. But this guy's, I think, I don't think he's that. Like you said, it matters. The only thing matters is can he play or can he not play? And I don't think he can play. But he, what has he done in the last 5 years? Is what I would say. I don't think he's really done much of anything. And so I think it'll just be another bad signing by J-Rob. Like Josh Reynolds and Clowney and all the other clowns he's brought in here.
some strays for John Robinson at the end. Thank you, Bill in Lebanon. So Odell's numbers on the year: 17 catches, 232 yards, 13.6 yards per reception. He has no touchdowns so far this season. And listen, the Browns run the football a lot. A lot of that is because Baker looks to be, although he didn't look uncomfortable on Sunday against the Bengals. My God, that was football was so weird on Sunday, and I'm pissed that I sat in a Los Angeles hotel room that all it had on the television was Cowboys, Broncos. Just wretched that football.
It was the AFC too. Just so much happened.
Yeah, it was. The AFC was a mess, absolutely a mess, and the Bengals now look a bit fraudulent. But at this point, Odell Beckham Jr. is not producing the way that you expect him to, and a lot of blame, like Steve Smith the other night on Jets Colts was like, "Hey, Baker, it's because you're not good enough that OBJ wants out." And I love Steve Smith for president 2024, but I don't necessarily trust his analysis as a biased wide receiver to the position of wide receiver who played with a lot of bad quarterbacks in his career. So Steve Smith understands what it is to be frustrated by poor quarterback play or below average quarterback play. And Baker's just not that.
He also has a dislocated shoulder for not dislocated.
Two shoulder problems.
Torn labrum for the rest of the season.
Torn labrum. Here is the analysis. So I read you the report from Mary Kay Cabot. This was this was probably about 2 weeks ago, where Odell Beckham Jr. had proclaimed that he would not have surgery this season to correct both of his shoulder issues. But this is what Doc Flynn, NFL, Jessica Flynn, who is a sports medicine doctor and injury analyst for the Boston Sports Journal. She also works for 33rd Team, which has a lot of reputable people. It's Mike Tannenbaum's website and newsletter that he puts out, the former NFL GM. Why do I continue to hear more talk about OBJ locker room issues than his shoulder issues? He has one shoulder with a labrum tear that he says, quote, keeps popping out, and a grade 3 AC separation in the other. He doesn't catch footballs with his feelings. It's the perfect analysis. And the GIF that she uses is even better. It's that behind the back one-handed catch against the Cowboys he was still with the Giants. It's probably 5 years ago. at this point, but where he's reaching back his shoulder in a way that is so acrobatic that makes him this kind of special, or that made him this kind of special. When's the last time you've seen Odell Beckham Jr. do anything of the sort? It's been a minute. 2 bad shoulders doesn't help. Let's go to, is it Ramo in Nashville up next on 104.5 The Zone? You're on the air, boss. Or maybe you're not on the air. Going once. Lucas said enough with it. All right. Scott and Beth Page livid. His pep talk did not work for the callers.
Not at all.
I mean, listen, I can only hope that Corey in Nashville is going to bring it stronger and try and redeem himself. What's up, Corey?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
We're great.
Hey, so I'm kind of indifferent on Odell. Like, if he can help, bring him in, but the injury concerns are my biggest issue. But I have more of a problem with people calling this a character thing or anything like that.
Exactly.
If you think the Titans locker room is weak, that one person can destroy everything that they've got going on this season, then you obviously haven't been watching this team play. They are more tight-jointed and close-knit to where Odell won't fracture a thing. Get yourselves together. I'll hang up.
Rack 'em. You know what people who think that way say to me? That they think their football team is fragile. Not that Odell Beckham Jr. is a problem, but that you're projecting your emotions about how fragile you feel as a Titans fan. You're not used to the top of the food chain. You are right now in the AFC. This is, I had that a little bit of a rant on Monday, coming back and saying, I'm not going to hear any more about underdog mentality from Titans fans. I'm not going to hear any more about nobody believes in us. I'm not going to hear any more about our defense is bad or Ryan Tannehill can't get it done in the playoffs. None of this crap, okay, anymore. You're 7-2. You're atop the AFC. Deal with it and carry yourselves as such. And what this Odell Beckham Jr. conversation with a lot of Titans fans turns into is he's going to blow up our locker room. Nobody move.
I mean, you
think your team is that fragile?
You can have both elements of both opinions, right? You can think the Titans should go out and get a guy if they think he can produce. And you can also think that Odell might not be okay with being the second or third option and everything blows up and he wants out and wants a new scene. And if that happens, he's gone. You can think both of those things, right?
I mean,
that he's worth a flyer by the Titans and that it wouldn't work out for him if he came in his eyes.
Well, it depends what his goal is.
Yeah, does he want to win or does he want targets?
Does he want targets? Is he trying to prove himself for the next team? Is he trying? Josh Reynolds is that, right? You just went through that with Josh Reynolds. Put Odell Beckham Jr.'s face on Josh Reynolds' storyline, and that's what you're looking at right now. But if he's trying to come here like Adrian Peterson did and how Julio Jones wanted to, and how they were treating this thing at the start of the year where, oh my God, the Titans are a ring-chasing team? What is this? You're bringing in all the superstars from the 2007 NFL Pro Bowl, and you're going to go out there and try and do it with the old guys? So far, it's working. Odell Beckham Jr. is almost 30. He's not one of these, young franchise-changing players. And really, we've never really seen a wide receiver have that kind of tangible effect on a football team. In fact, it's the most position-dependent player on a field is the wide receiver. Because if your quarterback sucks, you're useless. Or you can only do so much. Shout out DeAndre Hopkins. He's the exception to the rule because God knows that man has suffered more than anybody has had to suffer with bad quarterback play as an incredibly high-level receiver. But ultimately, I look at this and say, you can have your skepticisms, but have them for the right reasons. Don't look at this because I think it's lazy analysis to say he's a locker room cancer. Can't have that. He fought with the field goal net. Hit him in the face. And then it was such a great sequence when he's like, almost making love to it.
Proposed to it.
He proposed to it. He got a little, there was some PDA on the sideline. You know what I would do for that, for a team I cover? Give me the juice.
But if he goes to the Packers, he probably wants to help a team win a Super Bowl, right? If he goes to the Saints, he probably wants to be the guy. He wants to be getting targets every other possession because they're not winning a Super Bowl with Trevor Siemian.
If he goes to the Saints, you know exactly what Odell Beckham Jr. is trying to do.
So we're going to find out here in the next maybe few hours.
All right. We may well. That's what people seem to think. That he's going to make his decision today. Find out next. Lucas just texted me or DM'd me a tweet from Mike Wells, who covers the Colts. Carson Wentz's wife is due on Sunday.
Congratulations.
He said he told her he's playing in Sunday's game against Jacksonville if she goes into labor that day.
I want to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Oh, Sunday? All right, well, just so you know, I'm playing whether or not
now,
that happens.
If you're Philip, now, is this his first child? Do we have any idea of whether this is the first Wentz offspring? Because if you're Philip Rivers and you've had 10 of them, I get it.
Yeah, it's just another day.
Like, it's just, I mean, God, what?
It's just a Sunday.
Just unbelievable. I want him to come back. I wish he was playing for the Saints on Sunday. I want Philip Rivers back in my life so damn badly. What am I being held up to?
Brett is signaling that Wentz does indeed have a child.
Okay, so this is number 2 for Carson Wentz. All right, very good. So yeah, I guess you're gonna. I don't know what it is to have children. I clearly don't. Nobody on this show presently has children, so perhaps we're speaking from a point of ignorance. In fact, I know we are. But I would imagine that the second one, you're just kind of like meh, like not to disappoint any of the second children out there. If you're the younger sibling or however it is to feel that way, maybe I feel this way because I have a younger sister, and I'm like, yeah, I'm the favorite, clearly and obviously to everybody. How could this not be clear and obvious? So I'm just going to assume that the second one means just a little bit less. Perhaps if you have a child and you want to weigh in and you want to do it anonymously, we'll take calls. Do you put it on a poll, Lucas? Do you love your second child less? Don't actually do that. Stay away from my Twitter handle. Do you know you're not the only one to have access to my Twitter handle now? Reed has it. Producer Reed for A to Z has it now too.
What does he have to do with it?
I tweet out the A to Z link apparently for reasons that we discussed earlier. But it gives me deep concerns to know that two people that are not me have access to my Twitter account and can at any point just completely and totally nuke me. Which probably means I need to treat both of you better. But this is a conversation for another day. Odell Beckham Jr. is currently the conversation. We'll continue to keep track of what the latest reporting is right now. Now, you saw Pro Football Talk, or maybe you didn't see Pro Football Talk, tweet out earlier, and I'll give you the latest from Mike Florio, who says of Odell Beckham Jr., there's a firm belief in some circles that OBJ will end up with the Saints, who tried to trade for him before the deadline. The question is whether he's comfortable with the quarterback situation and willing to take the Saints or what the Saints can afford to pay. Everybody's leaking this out from the teams. Yeah, whatever he's willing to take, we'll give him. Let's just see how little he's willing to take. Odell Beckham Jr. has zero leverage.
A bag of chips and a po' boy.
That's what Dave Gettleman was saying he wouldn't trade for him. It was a bag of donuts and a cup of coffee from Dave Football Gettleman. Who's just, I love that Dave Football Gettleman has a coach that makes his assistant coaches run laps, and I love that two of those coaches are Jeremy Pruitt and Derek Dooley. Gives me life. 615-737-1045. Oh, God, we're actually getting calls from people who have children. I love that. Adam in Portland is up first on 1045 The Zone. What's up, Adam?
You don't know what you're talking about, man. Like, clearly, I love that you said, I don't know what I'm talking about. Now, look, the first one, I've got 3, all right? And the first one, you're just so scared because you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. By the second one, man, you feel like a pro. You're like, yeah, this is – so you get super excited about it, So, no, Carson Wentz sucks, man. Like, he's trading that experience for the Jags. This thing sucks, man. God, I hate that guy so much.
I love that phone call. Rack that man. That's beautiful.
Sorry, sweetie. We're
Carson Wentz sucks. That's great. This is a complication that we're going to run into on a regular basis because I think we're the only ones on the station right now that just don't have any connection to children, right? Slay has kids. Dawn has kids now.
We have cats.
We have cats. God, that's so – I don't know why cats makes it sound so much more pathetic because I love them. I love them to death. They're the only people in my life that I can talk to at any given point because they don't talk back to me. It's some kind of peace and serenity.
But you're the one that's getting dangerously close to crazy cat lady status where you've got 2. Yeah, one more. You start to teeter that line.
Well, there's 17 of them that roam the alley around my house because North Nashville is basically going on safari as far as wildlife is concerned with stray animals and all the gentrifiers, our buddy Josh Black likes to say, all the gentrifiers moving in and taking in the street dogs in North Nashville and making them adoptable pets.
Dogs smoking cigarettes.
No, that was my cat when I found it. 615-737-1045. Let's go to Johnny in Mount Juliet up next.
Hey, how you guys?
We're great, Johnny.
All right. Listen, I've got 3 boys. I was there for their births, all 3 of them, although one of them I was at work because didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I got the phone call. I left. If I was him, sure, I'd go play. I mean, what are the odds, right?
Well,
However,
I guess, Johnny, let me ask you a question before you finish your point there. Did you have that conversation? Because what we're assuming about Carson Wentz is that he sat down with his wife and told her, hey, if you go into labor, I'm just not going to be there.
I love you,
Would
but...
would you have that conversation with your wife?
Absolutely not. Not. And as far as favorites go, no. Each one is their own and special in and of themselves, and their births were all treated exactly the same, the first, second, and the last. However, now, as far as favorites go, I know I am 1, the favorite son.
Yep.
And I am 2, the favorite brother.
Yep.
And I can say this unequivocally. That's my word for the day. Because I have 5 sisters.
Hey, that's a great call. Thank you for the perspective, Johnny. We appreciate it. That was very wholesome. This is why we can't live up to the heights of the other 3 shows because we just don't have anything wholesome in our lives other than, as Lucas mentioned, cats. 3 of them between the 2 of us and 2 of them leaning my way. It's like the way that the voting goes on this show because it's not a democracy. My 2 votes to Lucas's 1. It's just a complete.
Yeah, but Brett's here now.
Oh, what are you going to overthrow me back there?
Brett gets at least half a
Brett
vote.
Brett can't even get in front of a microphone. He's holding up like hand signals to me in the background. Think I'm scared of you two? Keep dreaming. 615-737-1045. Jack in Nashville is up next on 1045 The Zone. What's up, Jack?
Hello. Yeah, man, what's going on? Buck, great show. Hey, just want to touch base with you on this Odell Beckham thing.
Yeah.
Man, we're fools not to bring him in and at least try him out. As precarious as their receiving core is, I mean, and plus, it's absolutely ludicrous to make the foregone conclusion that he's gonna create havoc in the locker room.
Right.
That's ludicrous.
No,
I mean, the guy. This is a perfect way to obtain a potentially world-class talent at a discount price.
No, I think you're spot on, Jack. This is why I find it so ridiculous. I find it so ridiculous that people are dismissing him outright that way, just because they probably don't like his personality, and I think that's just a lame way to do it. So I imagine I'm actively rooting for Mike Vrabel to be asked about this today. In fact, I'm texting everybody who's going to be at the press conference and threatening them if they don't ask Mike Vrabel about Odell Beckham Jr. If for no other reason but comedy. So your phone call is coming up next, and you'll hear from the Titans head coach, Mike Vrabel. I'm Buck Reising. This is 1045 The Zone. Man, it's been that time. Hour number 3 is underway. Show's moving fast today. We hope you're enjoying yourselves as much as we are. Buck Reising here with you for one more hour. Lucas Panzica making it happen behind the scenes. Mike Vrabel going to meet with the media 5 minutes from now, and we'll carry that live for you. Odell Beckham Jr. news is moving fast and furiously. Also, if you missed it, the Titans have designated Christian Fulton, their best corner, I add parenthetically, to return to practice from injured reserve. They have also signed Kevin Hogan and Chris Rowland, two wide receiver, quarterback Kevin Hogan, who I believe played at Stanford, if memory serves. I think he was a Brown for a hot second. In fact, I think he played a game for the Browns against the Titans when Matt Barkley was also a Brown, and it was one of the worst football games I've seen played, if I recall correctly. Chris Rowland and Kevin Hogan to the practice squad. Remember that they lost Matt Barkley to the Carolina Panthers yesterday. They signed Barkley off the practice squad, given that Sam Darnold will miss some time. So,
Chris Rowland, a local guy, by the way, Tennessee State.
Oh, that's exciting. They're doing pretty well.
Ravenwood High School, too. Very local.
Hyper-local product. Exciting stuff. But what is continuing to be discussed and what Mike Vrabel is going to be asked about today is the upcoming opponent, because it sounds like Odell Beckham Jr. could end up on the Saints, and I don't know how quickly the turnaround would happen, but I would imagine that they would try to get him out there as soon as possible because the Saints have actually no wide receivers left. I believe Marquez Callaway is their best option at this point. Michael Thomas is done for the year. He put out a statement earlier in the season. You saw how Jameis Winston went full cocaine eyes on one of his wide receivers. I can't remember number 10 Smith's name. I think it's Traquan Smith. Because it was his first game back. He was struggling with drops, and then they ended up dropping a game to Matty Ice, who's playing high-level football right now. The Arthur Smith effect seems to be real. We'll talk about that with Mina Kimes tomorrow. I think that's a pretty interesting subject matter, but let's go to Mayor in Clarksville up next on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, what's going on, Buck?
What's happening?
So all these people crying about national media attention, you would get it if you got Odell Beckham Jr. on your team. I'm just saying, him with Julio Jones, even a hurt Derrick Henry, and Adrian Peterson, you'll get your national attention. So I don't know why they're crying about that. And these better not be the people crying about not having him on the team. Media. And I don't know how much Odell Beckham will affect our team, seeing as he came from a running scheme and we're a running scheme. I'm not sure. I mean, that's why I leave the expertise up to you. Also, you need to stop talking about not having kids. You always got me, Daddy Buck. Just remember that.
It's deeply concerning. Thank you for the call, Mayor.
We're getting too close.
Okay.
Getting too close.
It's just, I'm already, I was on the phone with Compton yesterday because obviously he's not going to be here today. He had some appointment pop up, which is why we're replacing him with Mike. But Will now ends every phone conversation just as Scott and Beth Page ends every phone conversation by telling me that he loves me, and it's deeply uncomfortable, and I don't know why I struggle with this male intimacy that way.
But Scott ends it with like a beautiful soliloquy, right?
Oh, no, Scott makes you feel good. Will just deeply bothers me. New Bussin' with the Boys episode available now, I suppose. We'll give him his plug regardless of whether he makes an appearance. So, the national media thing, I don't care. I don't know why you care. I don't know why we collectively care. I don't know why I don't want to say, I don't know why I'm not good enough for you, but I understand, you turn on SportsCenter in the morning, you're having your coffee, you want to see the Titans talked about. And by the way, they were the talk of the National Football League in Week 9 because Derrick Henry got hurt. So if that is how you want to receive your national media attention, perhaps you deserve whatever self-suffering results from that. But I don't care whether more camera crews are going to show up at practice on a Wednesday if Odell Beckham Jr. is on the team or not. Although that did happen on a Friday for Adrian Peterson. So I don't know how much more you insist on having. Let's go to John in Nashville next quickly before Mike Vrabel meets with the media.
Well, Buck, I think if you want to talk about national media, I don't want to talk. No, John, you mistake me. I don't want to talk about national media. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it at all.
Well, I'm just saying something that I think that the Titans actually need.
now that Cam Newton has been vaccinated, I think we could use him and just let him know that he is going to be a backup. That's all he's going to be. We're not going to do a package for him. We just need him to be a backup just in case anything happens to Ryan Tannehill. And, you know, I think we need – because I don't think Woodside can get it done, you know, just in case anything happens to Ryan Tannehill. And that'll definitely get you some national media if that's what the Titans want.
Lucas, why are you fading John out that way? You don't like Cam Newton to the Titans? You don't want to do that? Odell's too much for you?
No, the point was
faded
made.
John out into the background.
The point was made. We appreciate John.
So much so that you faded him down quickly. I mean, Cam Newton was here a couple of weeks ago for TSU's homecoming. I don't know if people know that or not. But he was at TSU's homecoming. In fact, I had several reports of him shopping at the Green Hills Mall and received photographic evidence of that in my DMs. I don't recall where I was or why I didn't put that out there, but that was a thing, so I don't know. I mean, listen, vaccination does matter. Whether the NFL, I mean, Urban Meyer, one of his worst public moments is admitting that it does, because the NFLPA is going to be on your neck if you say stuff like that. But it is something that's unspoken and something that's being, you know, factored in on teams' decisions. They don't want a backup causing problems with potential unvaccinated outbreaks and that costing you potentially a game. But the Cam Newton thing, I just, you know, I don't know what purpose he serves. I don't know if Cam Newton wants to be a backup. I'm quite certain that Cam Newton has many, many other interests that don't involve football right now. And I have to imagine if you're Cam Newton, you've been getting the holy hell beat out of you for the past couple of years, you're probably not hating this at this point. Mike Vrabel is meeting with the media right now at St. Thomas Sports Park. So why don't we find out what's going on with the Tennessee Titans as they begin their preparation, their week of work for the New Orleans Saints.
Challenge every week to prepare for the next opponent. It's certainly one that we don't have a ton of familiarity with. We'll have to be prepared for Taysom Hill, for Trevor. You know, obviously they really got into a rhythm. They put Taysom in there the other day, hit some chunk plays, and then went back to Trevor, and really got moving there in the second half.
Mike, that Saints defense, what challenges do they present for you guys?
Well, I think they just have really good, players. I think they're sound. I think, the scheme is obviously good, but they're long on the edges. Davenport, Jordan, stout and explosive inside. I think their backers are active. I think I've always had a ton of respect for Demario Davis, and what he's able to do, and all, really in the run game, his ability to cover, and also he's a really good blitzer. Does a nice job with them. Quan, and then obviously Werner rotating in there, getting some secondary guys. With Roby, obviously Lattimore, Jenkins, Williams. They have really good players in all three levels of their defense, and the rush helps the coverage. The coverage, they play different coverages. They play multiple coverages, and then obviously that'll help out the rush.
With the way I'm asking this question for Terry, so I had to shift gears. Sorry. Do you need to make sure you stay out of obvious passing downs against this defense? I mean, they've been so good against the run.
Yep. You're doing a great job for Terry, just like he would say it. You nailed the impersonation. That would be the goal all the time. No matter who we were playing, just to stay balanced and stay ahead of the chains and being good on first down. Those are tough situations, playing the game in second and long, and then third and long. You just, some of these guys in this league, it's hard to protect them. And you just run out of plays and time to get them off. So the more that we can stay, efficient, whether we throw it or whether we run it. But that would be a huge key every week, is just being efficient on early downs.
We've talked about resiliency throughout your time here. It seems like you guys are maybe at your peak of that now. Just how valuable is that to have as a hallmark quality?
I think just having, in life, life is, things always come up. Everybody deals with things, and what is a struggle to one person is, maybe not so much for the next person, but everybody's dealing with something. And I think that that's a good lesson in life, carries over to the football field, that things aren't always going to be great. They're going to be mistakes. You're going to have some adversity along the way. And hopefully that with a team and a group and what we believe in and what we preach and what we practice, you can carry that through, that there's not a panic level. We had basically 4 double-digit drives against the Rams defensively that ended in 9 points. I think that that's a good example of that, of not panicking. And, don't want to sit here and recap the Rams game, but I think going forward, it's like, okay, we can settle down, not panic, play well in the red zone, get a turnover, get a 4th down stop, whatever it may be. So, we've had lots of situations here, and they keep fighting and battling and finding a way.
With your group, it seems like, both sides of the ball, they understand that we may not have a good game, so we have to pick up. Where does that, where is that rooted? Because it seems like that's kind of.
Well, I mean, I think I felt, they feed off each other. I think that they're close. I mean, you practice against each other from the time that we come to training camp, and so they're around each other a lot. Some guys are going to be closer than others, but I don't ever hear any complaining as far as, they got to do this, they have to do that. Kind of just figure out what needs to be done in all 3 phases and go out and try to do it.
Good to get the process going with Christian return to practice. And how happy have you been with the guys who've you've rotated a lot of different guys in there, how they've done as a group?
Yeah, we'll see what Christian looks like this week. This is a good thing to be able to get out on the practice field, do some stuff, get with coaches, get around his teammates, do individual drills and, evaluate him as the week goes along. And then guys have stepped up and improved and, done a nice job for us. So and everybody that we can get back would be great.
What kind of progress have you seen from Dez Fitzpatrick on the practice squad?
Yeah, there's some momentum there. Last I guess it wasn't the Rams week; it would have been the Colts week. He was show team player of the week on offense and on special teams, and so that's a 2-for-1 special, and those are hard to come by. And I think that that's something that we have to continue to take advantage of and try to find roles for him and have him keep working like everybody else that's either on our roster or on our practice squad, and that's our challenge.
Do you feel like there's a need? I mean, you released Reynolds. Is there a need to replace a wide receiver, or are you more likely, you think, to fill that position with maybe a different spot?
Well, I mean, I think when you practice late in the year, you're always going to need legs. You need linemen. Guys are banged up, so I would imagine that we'll have the legs that we need, and we'll see where we're at on the roster.
How hard is it to find a quarterback at this time
Vrabel.
of the year, and what do you know about Kevin Hogan?
Oh, what you want to slow fade Mike like one of our callers? He's eating a sandwich back there. That's on you. Relax. So a lot of stuff there with Mike Vrabel about Christian Fulton, about Josh Reynolds, and some interesting information on Dez Fitzpatrick, who may be called up in some kind of a role should there be further injuries or further derailments with the Titans wide receiving core. Pretty interesting that we'll talk about coming up next, and we'll get your reaction as well, because I know there's a lot of people on the lines that want to weigh in about what the Titans head coach had to say. So we'll do that next. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Are you tired of living with chronic pain, knee pain, or joint pain? Listen carefully, because now there are new treatments available. Not talking surgery or steroids. These are regenerative treatments from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. Hi, this is Buck Reising. QC Kinetics is the leader in these exciting biologic therapies that help restore and repair damaged tissue in your joints with lasting results. If you've got pain in your knees, your shoulders, your hip, or your back, nothing worse than back pain. Joint pain that won't go away, you need to check out these new treatments with astonishing patient satisfaction reports. They can actually help your body restore and repair itself with no downtime, no drugs, no surgery. Call now to schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. All right, it's a day of celebration. Mike Vrabel's press conference is still going on, and he just gave his first play better, coach better of the season. We're into week 10. How did it take this long? I mean, I guess they're not losing a whole lot, so there's not a whole lot of play better, coach better in there. But what the Titans head coach has had to say about Christian Fulton, about Des Fitzpatrick, about cutting Josh Reynolds, and a really good answer that he gave Luke Worsham about coordinating a pass rush depending on the opposing quarterback. We'll see if we can't pull some of that for you in real time. But here's the most exciting part of what Mike Vrabel had to say, and I'll paraphrase it for you before you hear from the head coach himself. That you're getting your best cornerback on a defense that is playing exceptional football right now. I mean, really high-level stuff. They haven't had explosive plays, or they haven't given up explosive plays, like real explosive plays, since Jacksonville. That's been over a month ago, almost a month to the day, actually, at this point since they played the Jags. It's been a really, really strong month of defensive football for the Tennessee Titans. So you're adding your best cornerback to a unit that so far on the season has been really, really exceptional. You're looking at a defensive front with Simmons and Landry and Autry and Dupree that they are only allowing opponents to convert on 38.8% of their third downs. That's down from 53.2 last year, kids. I mean, they're getting off the field at a much, much more rapid rate. They're creating turnovers now that we've gotten into the season a little bit and that Ryan Tannehill's not coughing up strip sack, forced fumbles. He is throwing interceptions at a more rapid rate, but that's, I'm interested to talk to Cosell about that this afternoon. The install is going to come out at 6 p.m. tonight because I want to know how much of that is actual Arthur Smith effect, because I'm looking at Atlanta on Sunday, and Matt Ryan, sneaky playing really, really good football right now. It looks familiar. Hell, they even got a rushing touchdown with concrete-footed Matty Ice on the move. But about Josh Reynolds, Mike Vrabel had to say, I don't know that anything went wrong. It just didn't work out. Well, and that's basically the assessment that I think a lot of people have observed. Now, maybe you're not familiar with what the Reynolds situation was, and you'll recall when Josh Reynolds was brought in here on a one-year deal that the wide receiver market was really, really bad. In fact, that Corey Davis got the best contract on the wide receiver market, and it was really not structured well at all or in his favor. Kenny Golladay, it took a while for him to get a deal done because of what he perceived his value to be and what the market actually bore out in this retracted salary cap offseason that we're coming out of. So for Reynolds, he took a one-year prove-it deal, and he got very quickly supplanted by Julio Jones and then by Chester Rogers, Marcus Johnson, and really NWI, because he came in off of shoulder surgery and then had an Achilles issue that cost him valuable opportunities in training camp. And then he was, healthy scratch from week to week. So the Reynolds situation for him to ask out is completely understandable. He wants another opportunity, wants another chance at a decent contract, and he wasn't going to get it this year with the amount of time that he wasn't spending on the field. But to get Christian Fulton back to a defense that's pressuring, Harold Landry has already eclipsed his, or is getting ready to eclipse his 2020 total season pressures. Harold has pressured the quarterback 47 times this season. He's got 9 sacks, 51 total in 2020 to 5.5 sacks. Jeff Simmons has exceeded his pressures from a year ago, 41 in 2020 to 42 through 10 games, coming off a career best 10 pressures and 3 sacks. Had 3 sacks all of last season, 5.5 so far this season. Ncaa Autry up against, say, Daquan Jones, 21 pressures from the interior, from the other defensive tackle playing next to Jeff Simmons in 2020, and 2 sacks. In 2021, Ncaa Autry has 42 pressures and 5 sacks. They are well exceeding their rate through the first 9 games. 139 pressures and 11 sacks through 9 last season. Through 9 this year, 180 to 23 sacks. They are getting after the quarterback at a high rate, and they're doing it with pretty good coverage with a bunch of dudes who were on practice squads or are 7th-round picks. And listen, I'm not taking anything away from Chris Jackson. I thought Chris Jackson made a couple of nice plays on Sunday. But listen to Mike Vrabel before we go back to the phones. Listen to Mike Vrabel talk about getting Christian Fulton back, as he has currently been designated to return to practice, but recall that he has not yet been activated off of injured reserve.
Yeah, we'll see what Christian looks like this week. This is a good thing to be able to get out on the practice field, do some stuff, get with coaches, get around his teammates, do individual drills and, evaluate him as the week goes along. And then guys have stepped up and improved and, done a nice job for us. So and everybody that we can get back would be great.
So, at this point, when you're dealing with the most injuries in the NFL, yeah, anybody that you can get back at this point is great. But it helps. It's a particular strong suit when it's your best corner coming back with a pass rush that's going to help him tremendously in terms of the amount of time that he actually has to spend covering some of these wide receivers. And there's not a lot of great wide receivers left on the schedule, given that the Saints, they have less wide receivers than they do quarterbacks at this point, which is shocking, given the way that the Saints of old have been constructed. A defense that's nasty. So you're gonna get. I think this game is gonna get dragged down into the muck a little bit, especially as this Titans offense is still trying to figure out life without Derrick Henry and an offensive line that started 11 different dudes this season at various points. Let's go to Adrian in Columbia up next on the Titans. What's up, Adrian?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm great.
Hello?
Yeah, you got me?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great, Adrian. What you got?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to talk about, I just wanted to say that I feel like the reasons that we're not throwing deep right now to Julio or A.J. Brown is because of their health. I feel like we're probably trying to save some of the deep routes for later on in the playoffs, because I feel like at the beginning of the season we was trying some of the deep passes, but then Julio missed the jet games, A.J. Brown missed the jet games with hamstring injuries, and they didn't really get an off season like they wanted to. So I feel like we may be actually trying to ease our way into actually getting the deep passes versus just not doing them at all. Or it could be Arthur Smith too, but that's just my take. I hope y'all have a great day, tighten up, and thank y'all guys for this radio show.
Hey, thank you for the call, Adrian. Yeah, we're gonna disagree as far as saving, deep passing plays for the postseason. That's not been my observation. Now I'll look at what Ryan Tannehill's average air yards per attempt are, and I'll be able to tell you better as to how often they're going deep and what the average depth of target is for the wide receivers, because that's the best way to figure out, outside of like the passing charts that Next Gen Stats puts out, how often they are going deep. But I mean, Ryan Tannehill, now this was a catch and run play, but Ryan Tannehill had a 33-yard completion to A.J. Brown on a short pass. No, that was the face mask play. Okay, they're counting penalties. Yeah, I mean, there's a 16-yard play in there. There's a 15-yard play in there. This was not a game for explosive passing plays for the Tennessee Titans on Sunday Night Football. Now, I'll have to go back and look through the game logs from the last couple of weeks before I can accurately answer that question. But I don't think that, I mean, to say that they're saving it up for the postseason predicated on the wide receiver's health. No, I mean, they were able to manufacture explosive passing plays the last couple of weeks. A.J. Brown's coming off a game prior to Sunday Night Football where he had 155 yards. Like, they're not holding these guys. I mean, the only time that they're holding these guys back is if something pops up in the game and they're like, all right, yeah, we don't need you because we're blowing out the Chiefs right now. I just don't think that's an accurate assessment. But again, I'll look at the numbers as far as average depth of target and air yards per attempt are concerned, and I'll be able to give you a more accurate assessment on that, Adrian. I appreciate the call. Now, what is going to help if the offense can't find explosive plays the way that they kind of struggled to at the start of the season is, the ability to pressure the quarterback. And Mike Vrabel was asked about the coordination approach to what the Titans are able to do up front with what is arguably the best front four in football. This is what Mike Vrabel just had to say at his press conference at St. Thomas Sports Park.
Well, I think that first starts with who the quarterback is, Luke. And so some quarterbacks you may be a little less inclined to have coordination. And then other ones that we've played, certainly that's at a premium. And every week is a new week. Coach Williams, Coach Crow, obviously Shane, everybody involved, they come up with a plan, and they try to, teach it to the pass rushers, whether it's a third down or 2-minute situation, whatever it may be, and then the guys have to go out and execute it. So I think the first part of your question is based on the quarterback, and then obviously how they run it. Using the game example with Jeff, the mistake that's commonly made is he rounds it off, would have too much space in between him and the tackle as he came around. The tackle would then be able to give some ground to get a hand on him and run him by the quarterback. Jeff wrapped tight, tackle couldn't come back and make the pass off. So, those are the struggles that we face offensively. Trying to stop those games, and when they're run properly, correctly, with good players, it's sometimes can be a challenge.
They're showing an example of what Mike Vrabel just described with Matt Stafford's end zone errant pass. Titans are 4th in defensive efficiency. They're on a 5-game win streak. They've got 11 takeaways. They've got a +6 turnover margin in the last 5 weeks with the way that they've been able to string these games together. It's a big part of what the pass rush does, and it's specifically tailored to the quarterback and how the quarterback, if the quarterback does possess mobility, how the quarterback is game planned for, depending on how they want to approach that rush, where it's not just straight up one-on-one win your matchup. Now, we're going to stunt, we're going to twist, we're going to do these things that makes the quarterback think that they've got a running lane, and then all of a sudden you see Jeff Simmons looping around to take you down in the end zone. You throw an interception straight into the chest of David Long that almost goes for 6. It's a very, very well-coordinated pass rush. The difference between this year and last year is they actually have the players to get it done. 615-737-1045. Darrington, our guy, is up next on 1045 The Zone.
Man, Buck, boy, this has been an interesting show. First of all, I want to give Scott credit because he made a very valid and interesting point. People, when you call in, you got a speaking problem, write your question down. That'll be taking 45 seconds to get the darn sentence out. And you wonder why Lucas is fading you out like the barbershop number 3 on the picture. That's why. It takes you too forever to talk. Then pay attention to the show that you are listening to. You stay on topic. And I'm so sick. If one more person called in talking about the national news, do y'all go in Walmart and say, man, Kroger had a sale? This is the Buck Reising Show. This ain't ESPN. This ain't Fox FS1. This is none of that. This is Buck Reising. Who cares about the national? They look at, they're going to talk about us when you're down, and then they're going to find a reason when you're up why you should be down. Buckets is going to give you the truth all the way around. So deal with it. Quit calling about the national. We don't care. Finally, I was having my midday session, and I got to listen to Buck, and I almost burnt myself from laughter. What sports man is a cat person? I don't get that. I picture you with a black labradoodle somewhere throwing frisbees. But no, you have a laser with a random cat. Is your cat named Garfield? I just want to know.
No, I got Leo and Frankie. I got 2 of them, Darrington.
See, that's what that baffles me. Growing up, I was always afraid of cats. I just never seen a man that was a cat man. I just want to know, did you like to play cat? I just want to know. And is Chris Jackson actually the better cornerback than Christian Fulton just because he's played more and showed up? Wasn't expected? Nah, listen. People, stay on topic. I'm out.
It's funny because he had like 6 different topics. And rack him. He had some good points in there. V-Love just tweeted, it's a historically trash day of callers when Darrington is a voice of reason.
Setting everybody straight.
You know what? Can we rack a tweet? Yeah.
We can rack anything.
We can. We make the rules. Here's what I'll say. No, Christian Fulton is not an inferior corner to Chris Jackson. Chris Jackson's just playing a really good stretch of football. And also, Chris Jackson has had an exceptional pass rush in front of him when he's been forced into action. Secondarily, I did not picture myself a cat guy either. But if I know anything about my ancient Egyptian history, my people consider them to be godlike figures. In fact, there's a giant, I think it used to be alabaster structure called the Sphinx sitting in the middle of the Sahara Desert, where I will be soon on my bye week, because that's how I'm going to spend my bye week in 40 total hours of flying for 3 days of going to see my relatives. But it's going to be fun. So I'll be sure to catch up on my cat history and how it relates to my Egyptian heritage while I'm overseas. But yeah, it has been an interesting show because of what we're learning. That's one of the most detailed answers you've heard from Mike Vrabel about how they scheme pass rush. Now, it may seem simple on its face how they're attacking these individual quarterbacks and how much different the norm is from guys like Matt Ryan, who we've talked about, to, the Kyler Murrays and Lamar Jacksons and Josh Allens. And, Ryan Tannehill has the ability to make plays with his legs. This is something that's being game planned in a different way in the last couple of years as the position of quarterback has evolved and as offenses have had to adapt to further maximize the skill set of their quarterbacks. We'll wrap up the show coming up next. Some polls on the other side. Been a fun one. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone. What are you spinning the hits back there? What's happening? Trying to get hyped for the polls? You club music a little early? Welcome back. One more segment, and then we'll get you over to Blaine and Mickey for the rest of the afternoon. Tomorrow's going to be fun. Mina Kimes, ESPN, Tier Tart, Titans defensive tackle. Going to be a part of the proceedings. Get into some Vols talk as well. But Lucas demands that we get directly to the polls, so I suppose I must do whatever the man in my ear wants me to do.
Zoinks, like, hey, Scoob, stop the count, stop the count. Yeah. The polls have closed. The votes are in. It's time for a poll update, Scoob. A poll update? Yeah. Zoinks, Scoob. Here's Buck Reising Show daily correspondent Lucas Panzica. Lucas Panzica? Yeah.
Oh. No, you can't go from Scooby and Shaggy to the clubbing music.
I found that buried with all the other poll intros.
Oh, wait, we've had that
It got
one?
lost in the shuffle
How
way
is that
back
possible?
in like April when Rep made so many of them.
You're
and somehow
kidding me.
we lost Scooby in the shuffle. I saw it in my A drive. I said, oh my God, I forgot this existed.
Are there more that we don't know about?
No, it's just Scoob.
All right,
Just
what are the
Scooby.
polls?
What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? A chorus of echoes from Marcellus Wiley, which we have already discussed. Lebowski says, you, Buck, and your refusal to admit your seat at the Bilderberg group of anti-Southern sports coverage led by ESPN.
I love Lebowski so much. Lebowski also critical of the callers today. He is not. There's caller etiquette, and the ones who know how to do it correctly, man, they're pissed at what we did today.
Matt said this tweet just got flagged 15 yards for taunting. Don't ask why, because it doesn't matter.
Yo, do away with it. And
We haven't even talked about the Monday Night Football hip check thing. From
It's
the
as
official.
angry as I've been at Mike Tomlin that he supports this stuff. Like Mike Tomlin, who's a part of the competition committee, says they're just trying to clean up the game. Boo! Boo this man. Mike Tomlin, who I love and who I respect and who says never say never, but never. Mike, man, you're not cleaning up anything. You're willing to let your quarterback go out there with a separated shoulder and play in a meaningless game against the Bengals, but you're not okay with some dude, hip thrusting in the end zone because he just scored a touchdown while somebody's trying to take his head off.
3788 says it's Middle Tennessee not getting out of the godforsaken Conference USA.
Yeah, I saw because I got excited when I saw that they might go to the MAC. I don't remember who initially reported that, but I saw Middle Tennessee and potentially Western reports or discussions about going to what is it, Middle American Conference? Is that what the MAC is?
Mid-American?
Mid-American, whatever it is. I want MTSU on MACtion.
That'd be awesome.
And we've been denied that satisfaction, unfortunate.
TK says it's Memphis hanging an NIT banner last night. That did happen.
No, what?
Yeah, they did a banner hanging ceremony for winning the NIT.
You know what the dumbest thing in sports is? We didn't really do a full segment, but that awful court in Memphis, I cannot stand that.
It's tough. It's hard on the eyes.
I cannot stand that.
Are you into sports farewell tour? 70% are not.
Yeah, Coach K, I'm sorry. I just don't care. I care more about what you've been using to dye your hair for the past 10 years than I do about your farewell tour, even though I respect you and your basketball skill and prowess to the nth degree.
Jet black hair at 74 years old.
Yeah, it's the only person who's less believable than him at this point is Nick Saban.
A legend, though.
Yeah, okay.
Who is the best basketball team in the SEC? Kentucky, Tennessee, or Alabama? 49% say it's Tennessee, 23% say Kentucky, 13% Alabama.
Yeah, I think that Alabama, I think people are sleeping on them. And that game was late in the evening, so I don't know how many people were watching that much college basketball, where I'm just waiting for it all year long to stick it into my neck and then be made miserable by my favorite team. But, Tennessee, with the way that they're not going to have 17 made three-pointers every night. And they shot 40 of them, so there's clearly volume there to work off of. But I think that, as we talked about with Coach Rick Barnes, if you missed the interview, go check it out, that Santiago Vescovi not being the primary ball handler is going to open up a lot for this offense. And, once they get John Fulkerson back, we can really evaluate what their front court is going to look like.
What are your season expectations for the Vols on the floor? Austin Campbell says, we'll go as far as Kennedy Chandler can take us. Orange and White says Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8. Stevie Ray Vol says Final Four.
Kennedy Chandler, man, 20 points, and you heard Rick Barnes talk about it. They really coach those point guards hard, and he seems to welcome it, which is exactly the kind of mindset that you want from your guy who's directing traffic, for lack of a better term, and last night making plays, taking shots. There were a lot of shots to be had all around.
Will says anything shy of an Elite Eight appearance will be disappointing. Where does Odell end up? Packers, Saints, or Chiefs? 56% say Packers.
It feels like it's going to be the Saints, which is weird because what is the quarterback situation there for the foreseeable future? And does anybody want to actually give this guy money, or are they just kind of waiting him out to see where things go? I'll tell you that I don't think Odell Beckham is an impact player anymore, and that's why the Titans should not be in on him, nor are they in on him at this particular juncture.
Do MTSU fans deserve Maction? 77% say yes. I think we all deserve Maction.
More Maction, the better. More ridiculousness. I don't know if I wish that on Rick Stockstill's health, because I like Coach Stockstill, and Maction can be stressful with the amount of ridiculous turnovers that take place in those games, but God, is it fun.
Last one of the day. Why do we care so much about Odell Beckham Jr.? 65% say it's because of who he is. 35% say it's because of his football talents.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Odell Beckham Jr. at this point in his career is a celebrity that plays football, and that is why people are attracted to him. I understand it. I would enjoy covering it because it would mean lots of attention for the work that I do, but, I'll stop thinking selfishly and say he doesn't really help your football team. We'll talk more about it tomorrow with Ncaa and Tart. Come back, join us at 10 a.m. In the meantime, you got Blaine and Mickey up next.